Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to take a look at how to paint this little watercolor landscape. So I usually start out with warm colors first. So I'm going to paint the sky, and I'm mixing a little bit of cadmium red and crimson. So I'm just mixing up a pool of warmer colors that I'd like to use for those nice sunsetty highlights on the sky. So here I started with a kind of a dirty water approach. So I wet some of the areas of the sky that I want to add the highlights to, and I'm slowly mixing in these warmer tones. Cadmium red is a really strong red, so you need very little pigment, and it's very easy for it to sort of get out of hand. Just making some abstract marks, laying down the highlights on the sun-kissed areas of the clouds. Now I'm adding a little bit of Payne's Gray into my dirty mixture, and I'm going to be using that for the rest of the clouds. So underneath the clouds, we normally see this shadow area, and this is what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm using the brush to kind of blend in the red and the grays together. I'm also quite careful trying to leave a little bit of white, because essentially these are the white clouds in the sky. Generally in landscapes, things get considerably darker towards the horizon depending on the time of day. So for these bottom clouds, I'm making a darker mixture. So I've added some French ultramarine into it, just to add a little bit of depth to my horizon and establish the horizon line. And then I'm supplementing this with some more Payne's Gray. Now what you can already see is that I'm beginning to get these little runs of color, these little spikes that are going into my clouds. I'm going to show you how to deal with them later on, because actually I want to get a pretty smooth transition. But meanwhile, I've just added some warm yellow to set up the highlights on the meadow of the ground. And I'm going to create a kind of a warm green color that I'm going to use to suggest the grass. And again, I've left some areas of white on the paper purposefully, because I think it looks good. It creates a little bit of texture, a little bit of variety, and it's always nice to see what sort of effects brushes can produce on paper. So this is where I eliminate these spikes. So as you can see, I turned my brush into a kind of a shovel shape, and I was very careful to try and squeeze out all the extra water from the brush head itself. And then I just gently wiped off the excess paint, and that smoothed down the transition between the two colors. And again, with a relatively dry brush, I'm just picking out these blobs of color that I don't particularly want to be there. It's very key to make sure that the brush is as dry as possible. If it's not dry, if it has any water whatsoever, the water is going to create a cauliflower effect, which I don't want in this instance. I'm adding some final suggestions of grass into this relatively wet foreground. And this is where I'm just going to let the watercolor do its thing. So let the colors mix on the page and produce some nice effects of intermingling yellow and green grass. Okay, now that the first wash is dry, I'm going to mix a sort of bluey green color and start painting the distant foliage. So there's very little precision here. This is just about the shapes. I've chosen this bluey-green because blue color tends to push things back, and because this is way in the distance, then this bluey-green makes more sense to me than a warm green color. Just darkening the mixture a little bit so that I can put some shadows underneath these trees, and that creates some variety in the tree line, and also just a little bit of adds some interest to the painting itself. What I'm trying to do here is I want to make sure that my brush has more pigment than water, and that means that I'm not going to get these cauliflower effects. So I'm dropping in pigment, and I know that I'm not going to be introducing unwanted effects into the mix. So now that the foreground is finished, or the background is finished, I'm just going to add this kind of, or dry brush in this abstract tree shape. Again, I'm not going to paint every single leaf, I'm just going to let the brush do its thing and let the bristles do their thing. So I'm hoping that I'm just going to achieve a nice random leafy effect just naturally, simply by letting the brush be a brush and do what it does best. I'm also very keen to negatively paint these grassy patches. So you can see I've added some darker greens, but that's against this lighter green foreground. So the eye begins to see these as foliage. So here I am kind of negatively painting in grass and different bristles and bushes, things like that. It's a really nice technique because in watercolor we paint usually from light to dark, so adding any kind of fine details that are lighter than the background is very difficult because watercolor is transparent. So this negative painting allows us to bring forward some of these lighter patches and push back the darker background. So I'm just splattering some dark green stuff onto the tree to create some of these isolated darker leaves. Now that it's completely dry, I'm going to start adding some details. So here I've got a very small fine liner brush, and I'm adding these little red flowers into the foreground. I also have a little bit of white gouache that I sometimes use to add opaque whites, and in this instance that's exactly what I'm going to do. So these are little daisies or sort of small white flowers blooming in the distance. Just adding some texture to the foreground. Foreground tends to have warmer colors, so I'm adding warmer greens, warmer browns, just some textured grass, so the painting doesn't look as flat. What you can see is I'm also trying to keep that tree as a focal point, so when I add these details, I tend to keep the perspective line pointing to the focal point. So in this case, the focal point is about a third of the way from the left, so all of these foliage lines are pointing towards that focal point. Now that the tree is dry, I'm dry brushing some additional darker leaves to create this, again, to make the tree pop a little bit, add a little bit of three-dimensionality to it, a little bit of detail as well. And I think that's it for now. I don't want to really overwork it. But this turned out pretty well, I think. It's a kind of a spring landscape with a nice sunset, sunsetty clouds, some distant hills or foliage in the background, and a nice abstract tree in the foreground with some negatively painted foliage. So I hope you enjoyed this. Give it a like and a subscribe if you like more of the same, and I'll see you next time. Take care.